Speaking of you, Edward, you just recently passed your driver's practical test, didn't you?
I did, yes. I
Ooh.
must have been about 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Um,
So as you've just passed, I haven't passed mine yet, but I'll put mine in for in a few months, I think.
When
Tim,
when
yeah.
when you're allowed. When you're allowed.
yes. Do you recall your practical driving test? Did you pass first time? And
I do recall it. I do recall it. So I couldn't wait to start driving, but for some reason I when I turned 17, I didn't book any lessons for like a month. I don't know why. There was just a month that went by that I didn't. And because I'd actually driven cars before I was allowed to, like on private land and so forth, so I understood the mechanics of it. And one of the clients that I work with is a young driver. I want to give these guys a shout out now, not for promo, free publicity or anything like that, but because when I worked with them last year, and I'm due to work with them this year, but obviously COVID happened and so forth, there was something very, very memorable from that I remember. And when you learn to drive an Edward, you probably experienced this when you first got in the car. You're
yeah.
asked to do a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're now in control of a car, so you've got to learn the mechanics. You've got to learn what the steering wheel does and all the pedals do, and the gearbox and so on and so forth. So you are now trying to learn a new skill and learn new things to do inside this car. And while you're doing all of that, you've also now got to take into account everything else that's going on around you as well. So you are now trying to deal with two things at once, and our brains just cannot do that. Young driver takes people like when they are from 10 years old and puts them in cars on private land and gets them used to just doing all the mechanics of driving a car. So how the brakes work, the clutch works, and so on and so forth. And it's doing it at a time when there's not a time pressure. It doesn't matter how long it takes them to learn all of those skills. They're going to have up to 7 years before they can actually drive. And they're doing it
Yeah.
before there's all different pressures going on around us, whether we want to get in a car so that we can not get the bus to college, or there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend that we want to go and impress, or we've got all these hormones going around us, and actually we're 17, 18, we actually want to go out and party and get drunk and so forth, not be learning yet again something else because we've got college and university going on.
Yeah.
So it's putting it, when you learn to drive at like 17, 18, it's probably the worst time that you can learn to drive because you've got hormones, distractions, all sorts of stuff going on in your life. When you're like 10, you are still super, super receptive. You teach a 10-year-old to do something, it takes them near enough no time to learn it, and they will learn and know how to do that probably for the rest of their life. It's like when you learn to ride a bike. You never forget how to ride a bike because you learn it at a time when you are most receptive to do it. So a young driver puts kids in cars when they're, say, like from 10 or 17 years old. And I think that is a really, really great thing, because then when you actually go out and learn to drive for real, as you've just experienced, Edward, rather
Yeah.
than having to learn all these mechanics, you can concentrate on what's going on around you. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what you're doing inside the car. What's going on outside the car? What's that person doing over there? Is that person actually seeing you? Is he over? Yeah. So I think that is a really great thing to do. When I
No.
learned to drive, sorry, Edward, I cut you off.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say that it is brilliant, and I think when I was 15 or 16, I had a lesson with the young drivers guys, just because I wanted to have my first lesson not on public roads in case something did go wrong. So went down to Manchester, huge car park, completely empty. There were just all sorts of cones around. So yeah, we just drove around for about an hour, and it was really, really useful, and actually really helped for my first proper driving lesson on actual roads. Made such a difference having done the young drivers.
Yeah, because you know, sort of like, I mean, it's weird. Like, we've all been in cars, but when you're actually in control of a car, you realise how responsive some of those controls are. If you turn the steering wheel, you can feel the weight of the car move around you and so forth. So I think that's a really great initiative. When I learned to drive, I got in the car with the driving instructor. My first lesson, it was snowing and it was really icy, and pretty much we just slid the car around for 2 hours. And then I learned to drive through the winter. So like there was all no sun, there was a lot of bad weather and so on and so forth. I was due to take my tests on, I think it was something like the 14th of January, but it snowed and all of the lessons for that week cancelled, and then I had to wait another like 3 weeks before I could have my test. So I had my test on the 1st of February 2006, and I was so nervous about having it. Because I really wanted to pass. Yeah, and all my friends knew me as the car guy. You know, whenever it came to cars, I was always right, and I was like, I'm never ever going to live this down. If I fail as the car guy in the group, they will forever mock me. And when I got there, like I walk, you go into the room, into that examination room, and you all sit there really nervous with your instructors, and then the test, the guys come out, the examiners come out, and I remember my driving instructor, hilarious guy, right, really nice guy, really chilled. It was like, I just drive around, don't care, you know what you're doing, happy days. And this examiner came in and called my name, and he went, "Oh God," and I was like, what oh God, what's going on now? And he was like, no, it's fine, just go out and be good, just go out. And I was like, oh great. So I went out, did test, and you're meant to have like a 40 odd minute test or something like that. I came back after like 35 minutes, and I pulled in. I was like, well, I'm back here early because I failed. And it was like, terrific drive, thank you very much, you passed, happy days, done. And got out the car and went. And I was like, oh my God, I passed. I've got a driving license. Oh my God. Driving instructor came running over, got in the car, and he was like, Tim, I'm so sorry. That shouldn't have happened. It's fine. Da, 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 da. And I was like, what are you talking about? I passed. And he was like, no way. And I was like, what's going on? And he was like, well, that was the chief examiner for the West Midlands. He doesn't usually do lessons or examinations or tests for students. He does the examinations for the examiners. But your examiner called in sick today, so he has done your test. So usually he's so strict, so strict. In fact, he's only passed one student before you. Everybody else he failed straight away. So the fact he came back early, like I thought that you'd failed, and to be honest, I thought he was going to fail you anyway because he's like that. But how many minors did you get? And I showed him expecting like minor. And I got like 3 minors. And he was like, I don't know what you've done, but that's probably the best drive you've ever done in your life. Fantastic. Let's go home. And I just remember going back and just being completely over the moon and being like, yes, this is amazing. So yeah, wow. that was quite a memorable experience.
That sounds good, like quite the lesson, quite the test. Yeah, Edward, yours wasn't quite that eventful, was it?
No, mine was very straightforward. It was actually also one of my best ever drives. Luckily, I felt like I'd pretty much cracked driving, and then a couple of weeks before my test, I had like 2 or 3 lessons in a row where I just made big mistakes, and was just like, when I got to the test, I was thinking, oh no, this is going to be terrible. But yeah, I managed to pass with just 1 minor, which I was very pleased with.
Well done, mate. Well done. I would say with driving. My advice to anybody who thinks they are a good driver, they're not. If you think you're good at it, you're overconfident. Yeah, I've been driving now for 14 years, and I've driven all sorts of cars. And I've driven tanks and all sorts of bits and pieces. I can ride a motorbike and so forth. I still don't consider myself to be a great driver. I would say I'm a confident driver, and I know what I'm doing in a car because I enjoy it. But I would never say I'm a great driver, because as soon as you start going, I'm the best at this and da, that's when you start overcompensating. You just miss things, which then lead to mistakes.